Howdy! Welcome to Viewing and Reviewing, where I pull older movies off the shelf, watch them, and let you know if I believe they're worth your time to watch or not. I'm Bobby T, your online video store clerk, and I'll be searching through my VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray collection to find titles that I think may be interesting to review. In today's episode, I'll be reviewing 1980's The Long Riders, directed by Walter Hill and starring the Keach brothers, the Carradine brothers, the Quaid brothers, and the Guest brothers. Let me read you the DVD cover. Jesse James and his gang of outlaws ride again in this extraordinary Western that pulsates with hard-driving action and electrifying drama. 4 sets of acclaimed actor brothers, Dennis and Randy Quaid, Stacy and James Keach, Christopher and Nicholas Guest, and Keith, Robert, and David Carradine, each depict real-life siblings in emotionally charged portrayals of the Old West's legendary families. The notorious James Younger Gang is the most famous group of outlaws in the country, robbing banks, trains, and stagecoaches with a sense of daring that makes them folk heroes throughout the land. But when the mighty Pinkerton detective agency swears to track them down, these criminals must face an awesome enemy that will stop at nothing to see them behind bars or dead. Only through the strength of their loyalty and blood ties can the outlaws hope to survive the brutal pursuits, unexpected betrayals, and blistering showdown that marked the end of their dangerous ride. I remember seeing this on network television about a year after its theatrical release. I was 16 at the time and didn't realize that it had been edited. I never knew it was R-rated until I watched the VHS many years later. I remember enjoying the film and seeing all those sets of brothers who were still new to me, and it was exciting as well. I'd known about the Jesse James Gang for a while since I studied Western outlaws because I was raised on Westerns by my dad. I still hadn't witnessed the Wild Bunch or anything quite that violent yet, so The Long Riders was somewhat of a new experience. Now, this film is not necessarily a perfectly accurate storytelling, but to be honest, most Hollywood films about real life rarely are. Surprisingly, this film got a lot of the story accurate, though. There was, in fact, a Belle star in Cole Younger's life, albeit the notorious historical lady wasn't as pretty as Pamela Reed. Jesse James and Cole Younger really didn't like each other, even though they rode together for years. The shootout in Minnesota was almost shot-for-shot accurate, including the damage done to each of the outlaws and townspeople, so I have to give them props for trying to stay as true to the story as Hollywood ever could. The best parts of the film, though, are when David Carradine's Cole Younger character gets drunk and just starts hell-raising. It reminds me of the best parts of Tombstone, when the cowboys would get drunk and couldn't care less who they crossed. Carradine played a really good jerk that still had some charm in film, and this is one of his best roles. James Keach made a decent Jesse James, although I think he played the outlaw a little more docile than the real guy probably was. Since the Keach brothers were the main reason this film was made, they had the plum roles, but I think James Keach played more James Keach than channeling the actual Jesse James bandit and his bad attitude. What I did love was the slow-mo shootout in Minnesota. I'm not giving anything away since the story's been told and retold so many times, and Walter Hill was always great at the big shootout. What I will say is this film is remarkably accurate in what happens to each of the outlaws and the townspeople involved in the shootout. They may have played a little with the timeline of the film and fudged a little of the relationships, but overall, this film did a good job of trying to stick with the original source material. So, my overall report card of the film, it looks like this. Does it stand the test of time? I'd have to give this film a B+ here. We all know the Jesse James saga. Also, since this was 1980 and well ahead of Silverado and Pale Rider, which set the bar higher for Westerns, I'll say this was a really good attempt to play it straight. It may not have all the grit and gore of Unforgiven, but it tells the story well, and I'll give him credit for that. The story. Well, like I said, we know the Jesse James saga. That being said, I'll give this film a B+ for effort. They really tried to fit a lot of historical accuracy into the film, even down to Jesse and Frank James's mother and their special needs little brother, who the Pinkerton detectives try to smoke out of their cabin, only to have tragedy strike. The robberies, chases, near misses, and ultimate shootouts that resulted from a true nationwide manhunt is all portrayed here in all its glory. And what I liked even more was that the outlaws aren't all Robin Hoods like we're led to believe in so many old history books. They may have a twinkle in their Hollywood family legacy's eyes, but in the end, they're still villains, and they get what they deserve. The cast. To pull off the familiar roots of Hollywood Brotherhood royalty in 1980, they hit a home run. This is a solid A. You have literally 4 renowned sets of real-life brothers playing real-life brothers on film. Add in names and faces we all recognize from the era, including a non-kung fu David Carradine facing off in a knife fight with a non-Warriors Ajax James Remar in what should be a throwaway scene that had all kinds of exciting elements it didn't deserve to. And you have a winner. The cinematography. To be honest, the first time I saw this was on network television, and that's kind of the vibe I still think it has. I'll give it a B-. It's definitely above average, and they chose some locations that probably looked accurate for Missouri and Minnesota, but it didn't scream The Searchers type iconic Monument Valley scenery. The softness sometimes felt a little bit Little House on the Prairie, if that makes any sense. I will say the final slow-mo shootout sequence was really good. It very much called out the violence and bloodshed in the Wild Bunch, and that's a really good thing. The music. Actually, the music fit the film exactly as it was supposed to, but that doesn't mean it was really good. The sound effects were better than most westerns of the day. I'll give it a B- because it is better than average, and it fit the era of the mid-19th century with guitars, fiddles, and Jew harps. It just felt old school without the charm of nostalgia. People who love that era of music would love it a lot more than my 20th century musical taste does, though. So, based on the above scores, I'm going to give this film a B score for the Western genre specifically, and it would probably score lower as a standard movie. Yes, it looks more like an R-rated Western filmed on the Little House on the Prairie sets. Yes, there are some cliches we've seen in every Western in our lifetimes. Yes, we know the Jesse James story probably better than most American outlaw stories. But this film was still special for the number of families involved. It was also an entertaining film. I wish they could have included more scenes with the underrated Pamela Reed, since it seemed her cynical Belle Starr character always added something to the story. But seeing 4 sets of brothers doing a great job collectively was something we rarely see in film. This film may not be for everyone, but for Western fans, it is a must-see. So, here are a few other good films starring actual family members. Since we're talking Westerns, I'll throw out the original Young Guns, starring brothers Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen, plus a type of brat pack of young actors that shockingly play the Billy the Kid and his gang really well. What's surprising about the film is the accuracy of most of it. It has a kick-ass soundtrack to go along with a violent, dirty, funny buddy chase film. It has aged remarkably well also, which is a bonus. Next, I'll say Rio Bravo with John Wayne and his son Patrick. Now, Patrick was really young and not necessarily a star of the excellent film, but they did star in 11 films over the years, and this was my favorite of all of those. Plus, Patrick starred in Young Guns too, so there's that. Rio Bravo has town sheriff John Wayne arresting a bandit, but that brings down a gang of outlaws into town to break him out of jail. So John Wayne enlists the town drunk, a crippled old man, and a young gunslinger to help in the defense. And last, may not be a Western, but Good Will Hunting stars young Oscar winners Ben and Casey Affleck along with Matt Damon about a brilliant but difficult janitor at Harvard who is recruited by a math professor to create unreal mathematics. But the kid needs psychiatric help from an equally brilliant but misunderstood Robin Williams. This film was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars and walked off with the Best Supporting Actor for Robin Williams and a Best Original Screenplay for Damon and Ben Affleck. Plus, it's a really entertaining film. Well, that's it for The Long Riders. If you enjoyed this review, please be sure to click the like button below. If you want to keep up to date on my future reviews, please click on the subscribe button below. If you want to purchase The Long Riders on DVD, or if you wish to purchase any of the other titles I've mentioned earlier, please follow the Amazon links below. If you have any suggestions for movies you'd like me to review, please leave a comment below and I'll see what I can do. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, be sure to help others in need because it's always the right thing to do. Have a great week.